We are simply nature running off. There is no control. Control only exists in the thinking mind. We think we're somebody doing something. We think we're in control. We think we know. But what happens when we stop thinking long enough to become the observer? We observe nature running off. We observe this in ourselves and others, and we see there is no control. God is in control. Control only exists in the thinking mind. There is no control. We just think we're somebody doing something. We're identifying with the doer, the actor. A lot of people, when they hear this, they have a problem. They say, no. There is control. I'm the one. I'm making decisions. I'm the one choosing. Are you? You think you're somebody doing something, right? You're just simply identifying as the doer, as the actor. You think you're the actor. But what happens when we stop thinking long enough? What is the highest devotion to God? Surrender. Right? Which is what? Giving it all up. Giving all up our attachments, including our attachment to thinking. Thinking we're somebody doing something. Thinking we're in control. All suffering assumes control because we're attached to our ego self. We're identifying with the actor. This brings all of our suffering. The highest devotion to God is surrender. Stand in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course. This is the highest devotion to God, which is giving up thinking, which is our identification with the doer, the actor. Remember, the ego resists its own destruction. So if we're still identifying with our somebodyness, and we hear there's no control, we're just nature running off. You say, no. I'm completely in control. I'm the one making decisions here. As long as you're identifying with the thinker, right? As long as you think you're somebody doing something, as long as you think you're in control, yes, you're gonna think that. But we need to stop thinking, right? This is why we will live in a sea of stimulation, aggravation, and information, in the illusion of chaos, fear, and confusion. Because they need to keep us trapped in the thinking mind, to keep us caught in our egos, thinking we're somebody doing something in control. Control, all suffering assumes control, to keep us trapped in the illusion. They don't want us to know about the center of the circle. They don't want us to know that we're just nature running off. And taking the highest perspective, which is the perspective of God, which is surrender, allowing the divine to work through us in the eternal present moment of God's love. If we take that highest perspective, all of our suffering and our attachments fade away. Because we are no longer identifying through the thinking mind with the actor, with the ego, the somebodyness. So nature, when we hear nature running off, well, what do you mean nature running off? We are simply chemistry and conditioning in our consciousness. We can only ever act based off our chemistry and our conditioning. We're not doing anything. We just think we're doing something. And when we become the observer, i.e. stop thinking long enough in the eternal present moment, we observe ours and everyone else and everything else's nature running off. And we realize the game's already over. All there is to do nothing, stop thinking, become detached from, in a sense, the separation of the thinking mind and become one with our cosmic beloved. That's all there is to do nothing, because we're not doing anything anyway. We just think we're somebody doing something. And this is a hard concept, perspective to grasp for many people, because this world is so stimulating. We haven't had enough time in the present moment, prolonged time in the present moment, to realize we are the observer and observe our own nature running off, which I have done many times, which is why I talk about these concepts so much. Stop thinking long enough and observe yourself working, your nature running off, without you thinking about it or try to control it. Because remember, when you stop thinking, you're giving up control. That's what surrender is. That's the highest devotion to God, the two highest devotions to God. Surrender, presence, and purification. Because you're purifying the vessel as a means to give it up more. Give more and more of your attachments up. How do we stop thinking? We have to facilitate a state of peace. We have to remove the aggravators, remove all the things aggravating or stimulating information, the mind. If we want to calm the mind and body, we need to purify the mind and the body. So this is trying to facilitate a state of calm and peace as much as possible in your life, which may be removing things like the phone, which has lots of stimulation, TV and movies. I don't watch TV or movies or play video games because really it's all just stimulation. And once we realize that all that stuff is just programming anyway, that's all it exists to do and who it's controlled by in the illusion, it is as a means to program us and to stimulate us and to keep us caught in the illusion of chaos, fear, and confusion. So how do we escape the illusion? Right? We realize we're nature running off and there's no control. This is the highest perspective. This is the perspective of surrender. Because when you surrender, there's no control. When you surrender to God, which is all God is waiting for us to do, is give God our undivided attention, the present moment, not thinking, center of the circle, becoming the observer, detached, right? We're severing that identification we have with the actor or somebodyness. And every moment we're in the present moment, every second we're in the present moment, we're dissolving the ego, right? The inflated ego that has become, has been created and inflated by the sea of stimulation, aggravation, information, right? Our attachment to our somebodyness, because they need us to keep thinking. That's why, in a sense, depending how much we're able to understand these things I'm talking about, this video could be considered dangerous by the controllers, because I'm talking about getting to the root of our attachment to the illusion, which is how they control us through thinking we're somebody doing something, thinking we're in control, thinking we know. And if we think we know, there goes our true common sense. You can't stand in the center of the circle if you think you know, because thinking you know is an attachment through the thinking mind. You have to get rid of all attachments and biases to gain true common sense, which only exists in the center of the circle, which is not thinking, no control, right? Giving it all up, right? This exists in the center of the circle as the observer, observing nature running off and realizing that the highest perspective is the perspective of God, which is surrender, and realizing we are just nature running off and there is no control. Control only exists in the thinking mind. A lot of our problems assume control. All of suffering assumes control. I talk about this all the time. Like guilt, shame, regret, sin, all these types of things, judgment, they all assume control, right? Like all of our attachment to being the doer, how much suffering does that cause us? Our attachment to thinking we're in control. Right? We get caught in the expectations and the outcomes and what happened in the past, what happens in the future. This is all part, this stresses us out, and we get caught in this game because we think we're somebody doing something. Because the sea of stimulation, aggravation, information is so powerful that we haven't had a chance to stop thinking long enough to see the nature running off. That's how powerful it is. Most people, we never even get in this incarnation, are not going to make it to the point of realizing we're just nature running off. And how do we get free from the illusion? By giving it all up, complete surrender, giving up thinking. Thinking is the cause of all suffering. Stop thinking and end all of your problems. Stand in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course. This is from the Tao Te Ching. What does that mean? Don't be attached to anything. Just observe it all, no matter what, no matter who, no matter where. And realize even and especially yourself and what you're doing. You shouldn't judge yourself or others, because that's just us being caught in the thinking mind. Because judgment assumes control. When we realize everyone, the way they act, our kids, the way they act, that they're just nature running off and they're not in control. They're not choosing to act like that. They can only act based off their chemistry and their conditioning. And so that's how they're acting. Right? And so we can as our conditioning knows how to improve chemistry, our conditioning will help their conditioning in a sense, right? Is conditioning working on conditioning? And then we realize this is all just nature running off. We're not doing anything. Don't be mad at yourself if you fall into a bad habit or things we do to cope with being out of balance, because you ain't in control anyway. This is just how your chemistry and your conditioning are playing out. This is your just nature running off. You're watching your nature run off. So just stop thinking long enough, my friends. Keep meditating. Keep facilitating a state of peace. Keep removing the aggravators, right? Keep calming the body and the mind. And eventually, on this journey of presence and purification, when we stop thinking long enough, we empty the mind, allowing deeper understanding, and we see nature running off. And we see there is no control, the highest perspective, the perspective of God, which allows the eternal present moment, surrender, allows the divine God to work through us as a vessel for God. This is higher self. I know I've made many videos on these subjects, nature running off and no control. I guess you could say all my videos are about that, because that is the highest perspective of surrender. And it's so important. And I know I need to keep hearing it, which is why I keep repeating it. And I know everyone else, because I know how powerful this illusion is, that they need to keep hearing it as well. And they need to keep at the forefront of their being, right, and receive this conditioning so they can keep working on the present moment and surrendering. And if you're not resonating with this, you say, I'm just not down with nature running off and no control. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Let it go. When I first heard these types of concepts from Ram Dass, I was like, I had no idea what he was talking about. He said nature running off. I have no idea what you're talking about, dude. I didn't even it didn't even register. But then, not because I heard it so much repeatedly, I heard it many times, but eventually, when I emptied the mind, right, and facilitated a state of peace, stopped thinking long enough, I gained a deeper understanding, which allowed me to understand it. Because you experience it. Deeper understanding comes with experience. That's why sometimes our beings seem to be stuck in certain perspectives that we may deem as lower. But really, as conscious beings, in any perspective, we're gaining a deeper understanding. So it doesn't even matter where we are or what we're doing, because A, we're not in control. B, you're always just gaining a deeper understanding, which is what you need, your specific being and your experience needs to evolve your consciousness. Thank you for joining me, my beautiful friends. May our cosmic beloved bless you with peace, patience, presence, health, abundance, and a deeper understanding. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. Namaste.